Hello, and welcome to another episode of Character Forge. My name is Tyler Owens. I'll be your character smith, and joining me once again is my lovely wife Leigh, who will be our character artist. Today we're going to be building a human female. Alright folks, this is it. We've tackled all of the official classes in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, except for one, and today we are tackling that class. We're going to be building a ranger. Back when I was making Grumka and having to think about how to build a ranger for the first time ever, I was looking through all of the available ranger archetypes, and I came across the Horizon Walker in Xanathar's Guide to Everything. And I immediately knew three things. 1, this was my favorite ranger subclass. 2, it did not fit the story I was telling with Grumka at all, and that meant that 3, when I returned to do a dedicated episode on Rangers, I'd be choosing the Horizon Walker. So here we are, we're going to be building an 11th level Horizon Walker Ranger.
You don't deserve rogues.
Let's start with our stats, shall we? That is a 13... and another 13, a third 13, a 17, an 8, and another 13. How's that for consistency for you?
Not enough 13 for consistency.
Alright, let's see. So, we're going to be taking one of our ability score increases as a feat. So, with our other ability score increase and our bonus as a human, our final stats are going to be, we're going to have a strength of 9, a dexterity of 20, and then everything else will be 14. So 14 constitution, 14 intelligence, 14 wisdom, and 14 charisma. So that's pretty... that's not bad. And it's really bad strength, really great dex, and then... and +2 to everything else is nothing to scoff at. Let's see. Let's start with our background. I'm going to go with the Far Traveler background from Sword Coast Adventure Guide. This gives us proficiency in Insight and Perception, as well as the All Eyes on You feature. Basically, being a weird foreigner makes us stand out like a sore thumb, but we can use that to get audience with people like nobles who might want to hear about our distant home. Whether or not that turns out to be a good thing depends on your DM. Be careful that you don't end up in some like noble's menagerie of foreign oddities.
It's not like we don't have DMs who would do that.
Yeah.
Sarcasm. I would do that.
Yeah. As a first level ranger, we're going to take proficiency with nature, stealth, and survival. We also get proficiency with strength and dexterity saving throws. While we're here, we'll do our health, and we're just going to take the average. With our average hit points and our constitution bonus of +2 per level, that gives us 92 hit points at 11th level. We'll go ahead and talk about our equipment here as well. Let's see. We'll call her Emerin. I guess that's her name. Her name will be Emerin. Emerin will be wearing studded leather armor for a total armor class of 18. And while she will have a longbow, her main fighting style is going to be dual wielding. Specifically, I think she's going to dual wield whips.
Okay.
Because I just think that's a really, really cool concept, even though whips are kind of really bad mechanically, but it's cool, so we're going to do it.
We just grab the whips from the Spider-Man universe. Those things are OP.
Let's not get started on the whips in the PS4 Spider-Man.
Thoughts and feelings.
As a ranger at first level, we get to pick a favored enemy. So since I haven't mentioned it before, the kind of what the Horizon Walker is they're rangers who kind of like guard or protect like the space between planes of existence. So like their focus is like dealing with portals to places and harnessing interplanar energy and all that good stuff. So because we're Horizon Walker, I think we're going to take aberrations as our favorite enemies, because the Cthulhian horrors between dimensions are aberrations. So at 6th level, we get to choose another favorite enemy. And if the interdimensional horrors aren't aberrations, then they're monstrosities, so we'll take that for our second favorite enemy. Of course, neither aberrations nor monstrosities tend to have a language, so we don't get extra languages from that, but that's okay.
I mean, aberrations language tends to be the kind that make mortal kind go insane.
Yeah, so that's okay. It's what makes sense. Let's see. Also at 1st level, and then again at 10th level, we get to choose a favored terrain. My thought process here is that if you're picking a place for interplanar travel, you want to pick somewhere that's relatively flat and without a whole bunch of obstacles. So, I mean, you don't want to, like, accidentally travel into a tree or something. So, I mean, that makes grasslands the obvious first choice. But coastal, Arctic, and desert all make strong contenders for our second pick. I'll admit I had some difficulty in choosing which one I would be doing until Leigh suggested that we go ahead and do the backstory first, which really should have been my first instinct, but I don't know what was going on that day when we were talking about it.
Life existed, probably.
Probably. Anyway, from Emmeren's backstory, I've decided to go with Arctic. So let's get into the backstory here for a minute. So Emmeren has been a Horizon Walker for as long as she can remember. So long that she isn't even rightly sure what world she originally came from. Oh, she's sure it's in her file somewhere, but first off, she didn't really care, and second off, she'd have to break into the offices of the Interplanar Police Agency, and that was just way too much hassle to do a 4th time. Especially since the 3rd time she was caught and forced to work for the department as punishment. She just barely finished her final assignment, so there was no way she was going to risk being sent back. She had horizons to walk. She would almost miss her time at the department, though. I mean, everyone there was a bunch of bastards, but it was fun to go chasing interplanar beasties who were rude enough to leave interplanar space. And the views. She had originally been stuck on assignment to all of the ice worlds, since she was the punishment rookie and no one else wanted to go there. But she loved the auroras and the light reflecting off the snow, so much that she began requesting the Tundra Planet missions, even when the next batch of recruits came in. After all, people always seemed to react even worse to being whipped when their skin was near frozen. And if she had to be a tool of the man, she might as well enjoy the power trip to its fullest, right? So, yeah, we're going to go grasslands and tundra for her 2 favorite terrains.
I think I like this ranger. I'd adventure with her.
Yeah, she's fun.
Race is fun.
At 2nd level, we get our old friend punted to the end of build's spellcasting.
Because it takes forever.
I know, right?
Even if you know the spells, it just takes forever.
Yeah, like I pretty much always play a spellcaster, so I'm pretty familiar with a lot of the spells. I mean, I'm less familiar with like the ranger spell list because I never play a ranger, but even with something like a warlock that I know the warlock spell list really well, it still takes quite some time for me to pick spells for warlocks. So yeah, we're gonna punt spellcasting to the end of the build. And keep going. 2nd level, we also get to pick a fighting style. We're going to take 2 weapon style so that we can add our modifier to our offhand attack. Again, this is great because, as I said, whips kind of suck in 5th edition, so we'll take all that we can get. At 3rd level, we get primeval awareness. which allows us to expend a spell slot to detect certain kinds of enemies in our near vicinity, although not the number or location. It just tells us if they exist, not how many there are or where they are. Also, at 3rd level, we get our Ranger archetype. Normally, I have in the past, kind of punted the archetypes to the end too before the spell casting. I'm gonna break with tradition here and go over all of the archetype features before returning to any of the vanilla Ranger stuff. So Ranger archetypes give us spells at certain levels. For the Horizon Walker, we get Protection from Good and Evil at 3rd level, Misty Step at 5th level, and Haste at 9th level. So we have those 3 spells for us. At 3rd level, we get the ability to detect the distance and direction to the nearest planar portal that is within 1 mile of us. And we can use this feature once per rest. Now, the restriction that it's within 1 mile kind of weakens this a bit, but also it is a 3rd level ability, and also it can be helpful if somebody is doing planar travel in within a mile radius or maybe a couple miles. That having the ability to sense the distance and direction can really narrow down the search for that, especially if it's well hidden. Also at 3rd level, wow, Rangers get a lot at 3rd level, apparently. At 3rd level, we get Planar Warrior. This allows us to use a bonus action to choose a creature within 30 feet of us. The next time on this turn we hit that creature with a weapon attack, it converts all of the damage of that attack to force damage, and the attack also deals an additional 2d8 damage. So that's the thing that we're going to probably want to do a lot. Because 2d8 damage is pretty great. And that's... So basically we call on the energy between planes to do additional damage, which is pretty cool. At 7th level, we get Ethereal Step, which allows us to cast Etherealness once per rest without expending a spell slot as a bonus action. However, if cast this way, the spell ends at the end of the turn. So normally, Etherealness, you get to enter the ethereal plane, and you can move around and usually walk through walls and things, because that stuff doesn't exist on the ethereal plane. I forgot the exact duration of Etherealness, but you can walk around for a while. This is more of just kind of just a teleportation thing. I can go into the ethereal plane, move my regular movement, and then come back. Then at 11th level, we get Distant Strike. Distant Strike is probably one of the coolest abilities that any class gets, that as a class feature. I just really like it. Distant Strike allows us to teleport up to 10 feet before each attack we make when we take the attack action. In addition, if we attack at least 2 distinct targets, we get a free action to attack a 3rd distinct target. This is part of the reason why I chose whips, because the increased range will make it easier to hit distinct targets as we teleport 10 feet between each attack. And this is, in addition to the fact that whips just seem the coolest visually with this, you have somebody teleporting all over the place and just hitting people with whips as they're going. As an NPC once taught us, sometimes you just have to base your decisions off of what is most bitchin'. So yeah, this feature just lets us get at 11th level. Lets us get 3 attacks, which is fighter level territory for attacks, with the caveat that we have to be hitting different things. But honestly, that's not necessarily a bad thing. And if we're fighting one monster, then yeah, it kind of is not as great. But if we're fighting a bunch of smaller monsters, then you can get a lot of damage in that way. let's see. So that's all for that's all for our archetype. Too many A words in there. Let's get back to regular ranger stuff.
None of them were even offensive.
I know, right? At 4th level, we're going to take our feat, which is going to be dual wielder. This is going to give us +1 to armor class while dual wielding, which I already added into our AC earlier. It lets us stow or retrieve an additional weapon each turn, so normally you can only stow and retrieve one weapon per turn. If you're a dual wielder, you can do both. And it also removes the light restriction from dual weapon fighting. If you were wondering, that's why we can dual wield whips. Whips are not light weapons, so you normally can't, but with this feat, you can. At 5th level, we get the extra attack feature. This means that we can take 2 attacks whenever we take the attack action. In addition to the bonus action attack we can do as a dual wielder. This is really important for that ability to hit 2 distinct creatures to then get a 3rd attack. Let's see. At 8th level, in addition to the ability score increase we get Land's Stride, which removes the speed penalty for moving through non-magical rough terrain, and gives us advantage on saving throws against magically altered plants designed to impede movement. Things like the Entangle spell. It also makes it so that if we're moving through like thorny terrain, we don't take any damage from the thorns. If they're non-magical. So that's pretty cool. And at 10th level, we get Hide in Plain Sight. This allows us to spend 1 minute camouflaging ourselves, after which we can attempt to hide with a +10 bonus as long as we remain still the entire time. So that's pretty cool, and especially if we get the chance to take Pass Without a Trace, which would give us another +10 to stealth. You could be looking at a +20 bonus to stealth, which is just ridiculous. Alright, so I think with that, we're back to talking about spells. As a ranger, our spellcasting stat is Wisdom, which means we have a spell save DC of 14 and a spell attack bonus of +6. We know 7 spells, and we have 4 first level, 3 second level, and 3 third level slots with which to cast them. Because of how we choose our spells, every time you level up, you can replace one of your spells with another spell. Up to 5 of them can be third level spells. As a side note, Rangers are another one of those spell casting classes that break my heart by not having cantrips. Not that Emmerin would really be using them, because she's too busy teleporting around whipping everybody, but still, just having the option to have cantrips is something that I really like. So it makes me sad that Rangers don't have any. Anyway, for third level spells, we'll take... Okay, well, none of these spells is actually particularly up the alley of what I was thinking for the build. Okay, well, let's see. Well, we can take non-detection, since Emmerin doesn't want the portal cops to be spying on her anymore. And we'll take... Huh?
There's portal cops in this
we will take...
Keep me alive, copper.
We will take Pass Without a Trace, which, let me look at this now. Stacked with our camouflage, our ability score, and proficiency in stealth, if we take Pass Without a Trace and our camouflage, we'd have a +29 to stealth. Which means as long as we don't get a roll, as long as we don't roll a 1, means that we would definitely get God level stealth rolls, because like God level is 30 in Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition.
Yeah.
So with a +29, let's see. We'll also take Silence, because she's not really casting spells, so teleporting around, being able to silence a spellcaster to then teleport over to them and whip them a bunch, like.
So is your tagline going to be "Silence, I heal you"?
Sure.
Well, she has to have a certain accent.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. I mean, you're the one drawing her, so...
So I should start changing her eyes into skull holes.
Let's see. We'll take dark vision, because it's just a useful spell to have as a human, because humans are one of the few races that can't see in the dark.
We can't.
I mean, it's true. It makes sense that we don't have dark vision. It's just like, you look through the races, and pretty much everyone except humans has it.
There's a couple expanded races that don't.
Oh yeah, sure, there are others that don't. It's just like, not having dark vision is the exception, it feels like.
Okay, you're not wrong.
So that's 4 of our 7 spells. Alright, we can take Zephyr Strike. That's a fun spell for... Oh, wait, actually, now that I'm looking at the rules for Zephyr Strike, Zephyr Strike is either going to be redundant or not helpful because of our other abilities. Because Zephyr Strike does things like... It makes it so you can move without having opportunity attacks, but we're going to be teleporting around anyway, and like, it just... Zephyr Strike is a really cool spell that doesn't really help us at all here. And Snaring Strike, that does work though. So we'll take Ensnaring Strike. 2 more. We'll just take Hunter's Mark and Cure Wounds. Why not? Those are both useful spells. I mean, she probably would have been taught them in her time with the Portal Cops. And with that, we're done building Emerin. Thanks once again to Leigh for drawing for us. You can follow her work on Instagram, and you can read her webcomic, monochromecomic.com. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, all those other stuff, all those other good things, so you don't miss out next week when we go back to the hobby's roots. And until then, keep those forges lit.